What if the most powerful man in the country decided to give up everything just to discover the truth within his own home? The question did not arise rhetorically. It emerged from the silent heart of Leonel Cortés, a man whose image loomed over the country like a modern god, untouchable, omnipresent, but essentially alone. He was not only the president of the nation, he was the face of stability, of order, of the promise of a better future. The fiery and calculated speeches, the strategic committees, the dinners with ambassadors and tycoons. It was all part of a carefully rehearsed theater, but no curtain can hide a truth when it screams in the silence of home. It was night when the suspicion stopped being a nuisance and became a scream inside. Helena. His wife was coming home later, and later the once tender eyes had become distant. The embraces procedural. Leonel tried to ignore. It tried to rationalize, argued with himself. But the heart has memory and the soul has an instinct that logic does not control over time. Helena not only began to be absent, she began to avoid him. She changed her perfume, the way she dressed, her phone always face down. Protected by new passwords, their encounters became forced smiles for the cameras and long silences in the official car. Leonel, however, was not just any man used to power games. He knew how disguises worked, but he did not know how to deal with the fact that in his own home, betrayal could be born from the one who slept beside him. It was then that he decided to do the unthinkable. The next morning, while flying over the capital on a diplomatic visit, Leonel staged an accident with the presidential helicopter. No one was injured, but the news of his disappearance spread. Like wildfire, the country went into mourning. The media speculated Navy helicopters searched, but he, hidden in a country house of an old college friend, began his metamorphosis. They shaved his head. He let his beard grow. He learned to walk with hunched shoulders like someone carrying the weight of a world no one sees. The clothes were old, dirty, the shoes worn to the sole. And the eyes. Ah, the eyes. There was no longer the gleam of power. There was something deeper. The pain of someone who chose to be invisible to uncover the truth. Leonel descended into the city like a specter. No one recognized him, not even the guards at the palace gates, mingling with the streets. He saw for the first time what had always been in front of him, but was ignored. Behind the tinted glass of the limousine, misery, abandonment, the hurry of people not to see. He spent days living as a beggar, sleeping in squares, begging for food at markets, eating leftover meals from abandoned trays, smelling the sidewalks, crying in silence. And the more he fell into the reality of the invisible, the more he understood the abyss between power and humanity. In that parallel reality, Leonel saw the true face of the country he governed. Children sleeping in the cold, women selling their bodies to eat, men screaming with silence in their eyes. He discovered that without his title, he was just another man, and when he thought he had lost everything, he decided to go to his old house dressed in a worn coat, unshaven, with a downcast look. He knocked on the mansion door where he had lived. He hoped that Helena, even if consumed by everything, would show some gesture of empathy, but what he received was the beginning of a much crueler truth. The door was opened by Celia, the housekeeper, who had served the Cortés family for over 20 years. Her eyes wrinkled when she saw the figure before her. Leonel, now covered in street grime, was unrecognizable. The woman hesitated. "Madam, Helena is not here, sir. We have nothing to offer today." He did not respond, just lowered his eyes and turned away, carrying silence in his torn pocket. But he did not give up. He returned 2 nights later, stayed across the street watching a black car parked. Helena got out, laughing beside her, stepped out. A young, elegant man, discreet tattoos, well-groomed hair, a familiar face. It was Henrique, his direct aide, a man he had trusted for years. The two entered hand in hand, laughing like teenagers. Helena with a gleam in her eyes Leonel had not seen in a long time. He felt the ground vanish. In the following nights he repeated the ritual. Came unnoticed, observed. What he saw was a parade of betrayals. Sweet words exchanged on the veranda where years ago he and Helena had sworn eternal love. The laughter echoed like knives. Each night a piece of him died, but he also saw something more. Helena had not only betrayed him, she had transformed. She organized private parties, dismissed longtime employees, and began to mingle with new friends, loud, influential, self-interested figures. One night he infiltrated one of those parties disguised as a last-minute hired servant. He entered through the back, served champagne glasses while listening to poisonous whispers, the richest widow in the country, and so, well accompanied. Lucky, they say, she inherited everything, even state contracts. Leonel then understood that the betrayal was not only romantic, it was also political. His name was being used as a shield for deals and favors. They were selling the legacy of his administration, and it all began with her laughter. He staggered out of the house, cried for the first time in many years. Not out of jealousy, but for everything he had allowed to grow in silence. The pain was not of loss, but of deception. He who thought he controlled the fate of a nation had not noticed the sinking of his own soul. It was on the street, lying on a wooden bench under a foul blanket, that he found new meaning. A little girl approached, about 6 years old, in torn clothes. She offered him half of an old piece of bread. "You look sad, sir. You can eat." He accepted and cried. That child, who had nothing, gave him more dignity than all the ministers gathered in his golden hall the next morning. He sought out his old friend, the only one who knew his true identity, and said, "I am ready. I need to return, but not like before. I want everyone to know the truth, the whole truth." The preparation for his return was silent. The reappearance was not on national broadcast in front of cameras. He appeared in the same dirty clothes he had worn for weeks. The country trembled. Helena fainted upon seeing the news. Lionel did not shout, did not seek revenge, just spoke every day on the street, every act of betrayal, every lie wrapped in smiles, and in the end, he handed over his office. The news of Leonel Cortez's reappearance was the spark of a media storm. Within hours, the entire country was in turmoil. Television broadcasted every step of the man who until then was considered dead. Journalists surrounded the presidential palace. Politicians hid, and the people stopped to watch. Lionel appeared on the improvised stage like someone emerging from the bottom of the sea. He did not wear a suit, had no makeup or studio lights. His face bore the wrinkles of abandonment, the beard of the forgotten, the gaze of one who had seen too much. He took a deep breath, silence. Then he spoke. "I saw the country you hide under carpets of propaganda. I ate what you throw away, slept where no one wants to step, and learned more in these days than in all my years of government." The cameras shook, journalists exchanged glances. Lionel did not speak as a president. He spoke as a man. He exposed Helena's betrayal with serenity, did not humiliate her, just showed the facts, showed how he was manipulated, how state resources were being used for personal gain, and how under the guise of a powerful widow, she had become what he most fought against: emotional corruption, disguised as love. But the most impactful came later. Lionel began to read names one by one. They were people he met on the streets, people who helped him when no one recognized him. He mentioned a girl who shared bread with him, a former teacher who now sleeps in cardboard boxes, a mother who lost everything and still smiles at her children with dignity. These are the heroes of my country. These are the truly powerful, because they maintain humanity even when everything is taken from them. And he announced he was stepping down from the presidency, not out of weakness but out of conscience. In the following days, he refused all interview requests, disappeared again, but now his absence was a manifesto. The people wept. Some called him crazy, others a genius, but all without exception felt the weight of his words. Helena was indicted for corruption and embezzlement. Henrique, the former aide, disappeared. The influential friends vanished. The castle crumbled into dust. Meanwhile, Lionel appeared in unexpected places, in a shelter in Recife, helping serve soup in a village in the interior of Piauí, teaching children to read in a care center, sleeping in hammocks, talking to former addicts. It was as if he was finally where he was meant to be. A journalist managed to find him once and asked President Cortez, "Why all this?" He smiled. "Because I was dead long before that accident. Today I am alive. I am alive." Months had passed since the resignation of Leonel Cortez. The headlines, once frantic with his name, now gave way to new crises, new scandals. But in the alleys, the forgotten villages, and the streets he had walked, his name was whispered with reverence. An independent documentary began to circulate, showing footage recorded by young filmmakers who followed Lionel after his departure from the presidency. They showed him cleaning classrooms, teaching poetry, building with his own hands a shelter in the south of the country. The film went viral not because of cinematic technique, but because of the truth overflowing from those images. A former president who slept in hammocks and shared rice with elders forgotten by the system, a man who once had everything and now was everything to those who had nothing. During an improvised talk in a rural community in Minas, someone asked him, "Don't you miss power?" Lionel smiled. "The power I was missing was this one here, the power to touch someone's life with a sincere word, the power to look into someone's eyes without being seen as a title." Every gesture of his became a symbol. Young people were inspired by him to create solidarity networks. Volunteers multiplied, and even though he never again stood on a political stage, Lionel had become the living conscience of a country in need of a soul. Meanwhile, Helena faced a long trial. She tried to defend herself with cold speeches surrounded by expensive lawyers, but the people no longer saw her as a victim. Her name had become synonymous with arrogance, unbridled ambition, and loneliness. Isolated, she lost everything except the memory of who she destroyed with her choices. Henrique was arrested years later trying to leave the country. With fake documents at his trial, he cried, said he had been led by easy promises, and that he never imagined Lionel would be so strong too late. Lionel, however, did not return to witness anyone's downfall. He was in another world, a world where names do not matter, only actions. He was last seen walking alongside a caravan of volunteers heading to the northeastern backlands, carrying sacks of food and books on his back. He did not give interviews. He did not pose for photos. He just walked with steady steps and a serene face. And so the man who was once the most powerful in the country ended his story as the most human of all. The truth is not hidden in luxury, but in the eyes of those who do not fear us. And I saw more dignity on a park bench than in many golden halls. Lionel disappeared again, but this time to live among those the world pretended not to see. Because being powerful is being able to choose the truth, even if it hurts. There is dignity, even in the mud if there is truth, in the gaze.